Here we go. Aquí viene. Here it comes. Okay, this is a little video on gracias and how gracias sometimes morphs into slightly different things that have slightly different meanings. And so I thought this was sort of, since we use this word every day, kind of a fun thing to watch. Pueden ver, can you see Laura? La linda Laura, the lovely Laura.
Gracias
Okay.
is one of the 3 words that people know when visiting a Spanish-speaking country. The other 2 being hola y adiós. In case you don't know them, they mean hello and goodbye. Gracias means many things that you may not know. And of course, it can be used in many situations. You can use gracias as in, oh, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. No, thank you. No, gracias. Thanks. Gracias. Like when you're not sure why someone would be giving something to you and so you're a bit confused, you say gracias with an interrogation mark at the end. Well, if it's Spanish, it's 2, one at the end and one at the beginning, but we're not gonna nitpick anything today. And you can also say thanks for nothing, gracias por nada. But in this case, gracias has many other meanings other than thank you. First of all, and the most similar, it's gracias a, thanks to, gracias a. Gracias a mi abuela, ya no tengo que comprar mermelada.
Ah, gracias a mi abuela. Thanks to my grandma, I no longer have to buy jam, mermelada, marmalade. We have that word that relates to this, but jam. Okay, so gracias a, when we put a little a next to it, it means thanks to.
Gracias a mi abuela, ya no tengo que comprar mermelada. And I wouldn't have to buy jelly because of course she's made some for me. Thanks, Grandma. Next up is gracia. Tener gracia. Ser gracioso. Tener.
Gracia without the S at the end has a special meaning, although it comes from the same word.
Gracia. Ser gracioso.
And gracioso, look how that changes. Gracioso. Anytime you hear an ioso, it's a suffix, a little piece we tag on to the end of a word, and it turns a word into an adjective. It turns it into a description word. Gracioso means funny, as in ha-ha funny.
Tener gracia is to be someone funny, to be someone like the life of the party, the person you always are laughing at or with. Or it could be just something that someone has said that is very funny. Tiene mucha gracia. Tiene mucha gracia. Y ser gracioso, it's someone that is funny. It's either a person, una persona muy graciosa, a situation, a funny situation, una situación graciosa. ¡Qué gracioso! How funny! ¡Qué gracioso! Or you could be on the internet being productive with your time and watching cat videos and you're looking at them with googly eyes. You're like, oh, and suddenly they do something funny and you go, oh, ¡qué gracioso!
Ah, qué gracioso, how funny. Your books always give you words like, you know, divertido, fun, and cómico, because cómico is a cognate, but gracioso is really what you hear a lot in common conversation. How funny. When they say somebody is funny or a thing that happened is funny, oh, qué gracioso. And what I want to tag on, I want to tag this onto this whole topic of también and tampoco, because many times we do speak in fragments. Many times we may not say a whole sentence, even in our native tongue, in English. We say a tagged on piece of a sentence, a fragment of a sentence. We may not say that is very funny. We just say how funny. We do that all the time. Well, they do that in Spanish all the time too. So
something like that. Cat videos. And at the same time, it would be something that is not funny. No es gracioso. No es gracioso. Something that's not funny. Or something that is not that funny. No es tan gracioso. So you're with a friend and you tell them a joke and suddenly they start laughing so much and so hard they're holding their stomach and you go like, it's not that funny. No es tan gracioso.
And that tan just makes it's not as funny as you think. No es tan gracioso, it's not so funny. Okay. Tan is just talking about the gracioso.
gracioso. Or it could be a situation that's not funny. In that case, it would be no tiene gracia. This is something you say when you're kind of upset. Maybe someone else is laughing at something bad that happened to you. So maybe you, I don't know. Okay, so maybe a dog walked by and peed on your shoe and you're so pissed. And your friend is laughing at this unfortunate event that just happened to you. Then you go and say, no tiene gracia. Or you can say, no tiene ni puta gracia, like with the swear word in there. In English, you also have the swear word version. It's not funny. It's not funny. A situation that's not funny. It's not funny. And on the other hand of the misfortunate events or the misfortunate people, we have the word desgracia. It's gracia, but with the prefix des at the beginning.
So that des at the beginning makes something, yeah, like super unfunny, super non-amusing. It's like we have dis. Yeah, we have dis in English, you know, disappointing. Something is disgusting. Yeah, that makes it a negative kind of quality. Well, desgracia is
Desgracia, desgracia. So when something is desgracia, it's something misfortunate, something bad that has happened. For example, a misfortune like this would be when a family member dies. So you would go, qué desgracia la muerte de Paco. Qué desgracia.
So desgracia, what a shame. Yeah, qué desgracia, what a shame.
La muerte de Paco. It's such a pity or such a misfortune, Paco's death. On the other hand, desgracia, if you use it on a person, can be used as an insult, like a bastard or something like that. You can say desgraciado, desgraciado. Let's get into a situation right now. You are an old lady and you are walking down the street on Madrid, on busy streets, and then a thief goes by running and gets your purse. In that case, if you were a Spanish old lady, then you would probably scream, desgraciado, que eres un desgraciado, something like this. Old ladies also scream this when watching TV and a criminal that has done many bad things appears and they start screaming at the screen, desgraciado, que eres un desgraciado. And yeah, it's more like when it comes out of your soul, you say desgraciado, like without D-O at the end, you get rid of the D, because when you say these things, you kind of cut corner.
So what she's saying there is desgraciado. In a lot of countries, in a lot of places, when they're talking very, very fast, they don't always pronounce the D. Desgraciado means they're not pronouncing the D. It doesn't mean that grammatically that, you know, it's just a pronunciation thing. A lot of people drop the D's in the middle of these words that have an ado or an ido, these description words. And desgraciado is a description word, but, you know, it's saying that you're a terrible person, desgraciado. That thing of the old ladies yelling at somebody, it means they're yelling at somebody who is a jerk, who has done something they should never have done, that no normal person would do.
You're so full of emotion that you just get rid of letters and you just say the shorter version. Desgraciado. You do not say desgraciado. You say desgraciado. And then we also have, again, someone with gracia, alguien que tiene gracia, but in this case, it's a different meaning. So this is something that you would differentiate by context. We saw before that tener gracia, someone that's funny, someone that's maybe really witty with their humor, the life of the party. But in this case, it means to be graceful. It's very similar to the English word tener gracia, to be elegant, graceful. So maybe I could say, my sister Maria is very graceful when dancing. Mi hermana María tiene mucha gracia bailando. Now, depending on the context, of course, you could interpret it both ways. Depends on how you're actually seeing my sister dance. So if she's dancing in a really funny way to make you laugh, you will understand that she's very funny when dancing. But if you see that she's really elegant and she has really perfect and clean moves, then you know that when they are saying tiene mucha gracia, they are referring to the fact that she's very graceful when dancing. Now, back to the traditional meaning of the word gracias, thank you. If you were to subscribe, then of course I would say gracias por suscribirte. Leave a comment down below if you knew.
Okay, and that's our little tutorial on gracias and words that morph into, or how gracias can morphs really into some other forms for different kinds of meanings. And gracioso maybe being, I would say, the most important one, because you'll hear gracioso used a lot when people say that something is funny, as an amusing kind of funny. Not that it smells funny or But somebody acts in a funny way, or they say something funny. Es gracioso. Okay. Buena palabra. That is a good vocabulary word. And to know that we can take that word gracias and it morphs by changing different little letters and adding little things to the end or adding little things to the beginning. Okay, so adding gracioso makes it into an adjective description of somebody or situation. Putting a des in front of it and putting an ado at the end of it, desgraciado, turns it into somebody who is kind of a despicable person. Un desgraciado, a despicable person who has done something really bad against our social norms. Okay, you may want to now take yourselves off of mute because novelita time. I want to open it up to any questions you might have from your actual novel reading that you have done during, wow, 2 weeks, 2 semanas. We had a long hiatus this time, and I'm trying to get my computer to cooperate. There we go. Okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? Is there some kind of a question that anybody has from reading? Or maybe not this week. And as you're getting deeper in, typically we get fewer questions sometimes, some weeks as you get deeper into like halfway through the novela, because by then you start seeing some of these structures over and over again. And you'll notice in these little books, they do a lot of repetitive kind of structures. And in English, whereas you would consider that repetitive and boring, it is repetitive to make you see the structure over and over. So you understand how those words work together, like the le dice, le dijo, right? All those things are designed to be repeated a lot to get the pattern stuck into your head.
Yeah.
Okay. No hay ninguna pregunta. There's no question? Okay. Magnifico. Okay, that was a short topic then. That's fine. Está bien, it's good. Some weeks you'll have some weeks you won't. I do want to hit a little bit on the también and tampoco issue. And I'm going to, even though I assigned these, I am going to show a portion of these videos to kind of emphasize something that maybe might not have been obvious at first viewing, perhaps. We've got these two words, también and tampoco, which are opposites, like algo is the opposite of nada, and alguien is the opposite of nadie. Okay, también and tampoco, the two T words are opposites of each other. And oddly enough, even though they're opposites, they both relate to agreement, but agreement in different ways. So I want to show just this snippet because these videos are good for different reasons. And this one was good for showing you this one bit of information. Both words, and I think I've got my closed caption on and I don't necessarily need that, but both words are used to express agreement, but one agreement with a negative statement and one with an affirmative. So the one way we're going to look at también and tampoco is that they both talk about agreement, even though they're opposites of each other. Okay.
Words are used to express agreement, but in different situations. Tampoco is for agreeing to negative sentences.
So tampoco is agreement for negative sentences. So if somebody says, I don't like skiing, neither do I. We need tampoco in that situation because you're agreeing with a negative situation. I don't like scorpions. Neither do I. You're agreeing, but you're agreeing with a negative statement. Okay.
And también is for agreeing to affirmative sentences.
So también, and you can look at it as we're tagging that tam thing onto the word bien, which means well. También is also agreeing, but it's saying me too for affirmative sentences. I like running. Oh, so do I. I like monsoon season. Oh, so do I. I like dogs. Oh, I do too. All right. And they don't really have good translations. We don't have good translations. They do have definitions.
There is no direct translation of these words in English, but the closest one will be también, too, also, or as well. Tampoco, neither, or either, depending on the context. Now that we know this,
okay, so if we can get our minds wrapped around first, these two things, you know, tampoco is agreeing with a negative kind of statement. That's the first thing, right? And también is agreeing and saying me too for an affirmative type statement. So now we can build también and tampoco into a whole big long sentence, but the fact of the matter is, just as in English, sometimes we use también, or very often we use también and tampoco as fragments, meaning we won't, you can use it in a whole sentence, but very, very, very often we will use these as a partial without a whole sentence to hold it up, just like you do in English, saying me too. But the difficulty is now we've also got this little odd fragment of that word and the question had come up from more than one person that, well, wait a minute, they were kind of differentiating when to use a mí también versus just yo también, okay? And the key to that, you know, whether you use an is whether or not it's a verb like gustar, okay? So we're gonna see a little snippet of this video as well to check that out, but I wanna kind of get into the examples they give us. So they were showing us 14 verbs like gustar, and I really need to tell you, there are not just 14 verbs like gustar. There are a whole bunch of verbs like gustar. And if you want to see some of them, and by the way, it still won't be all of them, en el libro, in the book, from page 159 to 161, they give us a bunch that behave like gustar. And so anytime people are using a verb that is like gustar or using gustar, and really for your purposes, I would say there are 3 you should really start to get down pat. So don't tell yourselves, wow, do I have to memorize all these 14 verbs? You may not use all those 14 verbs. You may not use them all. It depends on which ones are more useful for you. The 3 that I think are probably the most useful for beginner people are, well, okay, gustar es obvio. Gustar is going to be one. Encantar, because sometimes we magnify that feeling of gustar and we magnify it to not I like, but I love something. So gustar, encantar, and molestar. Molestar because it means to annoy. Okay, and we also have a verb disgustar, which again is putting that this. And again, that means that you dislike something. So they are going to show you some of these verbs. So I'm going to replay this part of the video.
Verbos
See some of them.
como gustar. Me encanta.
So when you hear these kind of verbs, the response is often going to be an a mí también or an a mí tampoco, either that agreement with a negative thing or that agreement with an affirmative thing. So here's the me encanta.
Me cuesta.
Me cuesta means it costs me, and this will sound kind of odd. And this is tinged a little bit by the fact that this is a Colombian group. But me cuesta is used everywhere. Me cuesta means It costs me. It's hard for me. Me cuesta, if something costs you energy, it costs you the gumption to get, work yourself up to doing it. It means it's hard for you to do it. Okay? So the me cuesta is like saying it's hard for me.
Me molesta.
There's the it bothers me. This one, muy importante. This is important because sometimes you really want to say something annoys you.
Me queda.
Me queda to say something is left over. You have something left over. You have, more than what you originally thought you were going to use up.
Me sobra.
Me importa.
It
Me
matters.
aburre.
That me importa is really kind of important too. Maybe we should have a for list. Me importa is something people will use a lot. Importar means to be important to somebody. Or in other words, what we usually say in English to say it is important to me is to say it matters to me. So we wind up using matters to me, matters to you, more than we use the actual thing of it is important to me. The me aburre is it bores me.
Me preocupa.
It worries me.
Me falta.
Me falta means I am lacking something, and you'd never say I am lacking this in English. You would say that you need something. You haven't got something and therefore you have a need for it.
Me atrae.
Me atrae means it attracts me. Are you going to use that a lot? Probably you're not going to use it a lot. But the important thing will be to listen to the examples they've got.
Me conviene.
Me conviene, again, is something that you're not going to probably personally use a lot. But conviene, me conviene, it is advisable to me. It is a good idea for me to do a certain thing, and we'll talk about that when they do the examples.
Me parece.
Me parece you actually hear quite a lot. Me parece has actually a couple meanings. Me parece, it looks, wow, well, that's easy on the surface. It seems to me.
They use that in the book all the time.
They use it in the book all the time. Something seems to me. And people may take just the me parece and use it as a question. And then me parece is more like asking for agreement on your part. ¿Qué te parece? What do you think? It's a way of asking, what do you think about that? Meaning literally, how does it seem to you? So they're asking for you to confer, yep, seems good to me, or nope, don't like that idea. So, ¿qué te parece, as a question, is often used as, what do you think about this? Do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? Okay, so.
Me duele.
Me duele, that this is a thing that says a body part hurts. Okay, my eyes hurt, my hands hurt, my head hurts, my stomach hurts. Okay.
Me pica.
Me pica. Picar means to sting. Picar means to sting. When they talk about food being picante, picante means spicy, and spicy food stings your tongue. Boom, boom, oh, you feel it on your tongue. Okay, so that's why the word picante means stinging. So me pica, it means it stings me. And again, this is kind of like, it can be used as kind of an annoyance thing. I find this bothersome. Like a sting from a bee or a mosquito would be bothersome. But are you going to use the me pica a lot? No. The ones you're probably going to use and hear a lot. Okay, wow, we've expanded it to probably 5. Me parece, quite a lot, right? Me importa, probably quite a lot. Me gusta, a lot. Me encanta, a lot. And now I'm forgetting the other. But anyway, Some of these you will use more than others. You know, me duele, if you were hurt, you'll use that a lot. Me conviene, you're probably not going to, as a tourist, need that verb a lot. So when they say 14 verbs, do you need to memorize these all? No. But notice how these are set up. They're set up as me with a verb that's not a yo verb. So this does something to me. Okay, me duele, something hurts, duele, it hurts, a thing hurts, and it's hurting me. Me parece, it seems that way to me. Okay, so anytime we hear a verb like gustar, it'll use this a mí también or a mí tampoco. If it's a verb that's not like gustar, it'll be just yo también or yo tampoco. So let's look at the examples.
Andrea, a mí me encanta ir a la piscina.
So here's a verb like gustar. I love going to the pool. And the difference from using a mí tampoco or a mí también or just yo también, yo tampoco is this. Is it a verb like gustar? If it's a verb like gustar, we need that little a mí.
Sí, a mí también.
Me too. But to say the me too phrase without the whole sentence properly, me encanta means I love it. It's a verb like gustar. So, a mí también. Yeah, me too. A mí también. A mí también.
Miguel, tengo mucha hambre.
This is a verb that is not like gustar. Tengo is not like gustar. It uses all those forms, the yo form, the nosotros form, the tú form. If it uses all those forms, then we don't need the a mí phrase. Okay?
Sí, Andrea, yo también.
So not a mí también, but yo también. Me too. They both mean me too, right? But a mí también, when we're using a verb that's like gustar. Yo también, when we're using a verb that's a normal verb. Okay, so what are normal verbs? The normal verbs, as you're thinking of them, will be verbs that go into and are most commonly used in all the different forms, the yo, the tú, the ele, usted, de nosotros, de ellos. Okay, so shout out a verb that's a normal verb, guys. What's a normal?
Tener.
Tener is obvio. Sí. What's another one that's normal?
Comer.
Comer.
Quiere.
Yeah. Beber. Normal. It's going to use yo también. Cocinar. Normal. It'll have a yo también, right? Comprar. Normal, right? It'll use the yo también. Otra vez, vender, normal, it'll use yo también. Escuchar, normal. Ver, caminar, normal. Montar en bicicleta, normal. Montar a caballo, horseback ride, normal, right? So all these words that are just the normal actions that use all the forms for all those actions, depending on who's doing it, right? Those use yo también, or for a negative, yo tampoco, okay? The normal verbs, the ones that go into all the forms from the great big chart. Remember, gustar technically does have the whole chart, but most of that chart is never used. It's usually either gusta or gustan, right? Either encanta or encantan, right? Because something is happening to the person rather than the person doing an activity. Okay, so let's watch the other examples.
Andrea, A mí no me cuesta levantarme temprano.
It's not so hard. It doesn't cost, literally, it doesn't cost me a lot to get up early. But you would never say that in English. You would say, it's not hard for me to get up early. We would use a whole different set of words. But me cuesta means it's hard for me. People may also say it this way. No me dificulta. No me dificulta. But look at that. Me cuesta. Me and cuesta is not a yo form. It, or in this case, it's a negative. No me cuesta. It does not cost me. No me dificulta. It is not difficult for me.
Una pregunta.
Sí, sí.
I see they also use levantarme. He put the me there too. He's kind of got me in there a couple times.
Yes, the me is in there a couple times. Ooh, eres muy lista. You are very, very clever. Yes, this is like super tricky. Well, levantarme is a reflexive, which we're going to look at after this tampoco and también thing. Yeah, levantarme means getting up, but me getting up. And when I'm talking about me doing it,
You have to add the me.
instead of having the se at the end, it's got to be, we morph it into a me at the end.
Okay.
Exacto. Muy bien. Qué lista eres. How smart you are. Okay.
Oh.
Let's look at the other
A
examples.
mí tampoco.
And so it's an a mí tampoco, because it was cuesta, right? Okay.
A mí me molesta que la gente fume enfrente de los niños.
It bugs me, it annoys me, it bothers me that people smoke in front of little kids. And look, we got not a yo verb. Oh, it's molesta. It is bothersome to me. It annoys me. So all of these gusta things are really kind of external verbs. It's about something external acting upon me.
A mí también.
A mí también.
Miguel, estoy cansada.
Here's a yo form. Therefore, it's a normal verb. We won't need that phrase.
Ay, sí. Yo también.
Me too, yo también.
Andrea, estoy feliz porque hoy hice muchas cosas. No me quedan muchas por hacer.
I don't have many things left to do. I check all my checklist, my to-do list. No me quedan, I don't have many chores left to do. No me quedan. And it's a plural, but it's not a yo. It's not a yo verb form. So we'll need
A mí tampoco. Yo también adelanté bastante trabajo. Miguel, yo no he almorzado.
And that's kind of an advanced thing. I have not eaten. It means it's in the past.
Yo tampoco.
Yo
Andrea,
tampoco.
cuando
No.
pinté mi cuarto, no utilicé toda la pintura. Me sobró bastante.
And this is also a
No,
leftover
a mí
verb.
también. A mí también.
You're
me
not going to need to
sobró
use this
bastante
verb a whole
pintura.
lot.
Necesito comprar nuevas gafas.
I need to buy new sunglasses. Se dañaron means they got broken.
Yo también.
De sol. Se dañaron.
Uy, sí. Yo también. Las mías están muy viejas.
Yeah, me too. Mine, las mías, mine.
Las mías.
And they're saying mine without the word gafas, las mías. Yeah, mine are really old. Wow, mine are really old too.
A mí no me importa que mi pareja sea mayor que yo.
And here's one that really, the me importa is one you will hear people use a lot. Me importa. No me importa doesn't matter to me. It's a negative statement. No me importa. It doesn't matter to me that my partner, and this would be a romantic partner, okay? Pareja would mean a couple, right? So husband or wife. It doesn't matter to me that they're older than I am.
A mí tampoco.
And
Ne-
a mí tampoco, it's got to be tampoco because it was a negative statement. No me importa. So you're saying, doesn't matter to me either. You're agreeing with a negative statement. So it's a tampoco.
Adiós.
8 años mayor que yo. Yo no voy a ir a la fiesta el sábado.
¿no?
Okay. Yo tampoco, un verbo normal, a normal verb,
Usted no
right?
va, yo no voy. A mí me aburren las películas sobre políticos.
Movies, a movie about politicians, those movies, they bore me. They are boring to me. And she's saying, yeah, me too. I don't like, yeah, me too.
Uy,
I don't like
sí,
them
a
either.
mí también. Quiero visitar a mi mamá el sábado.
Uy, sí, yo también.
Okay, want to visit my mom, and yo también, and quiero, right? Quiero visitar is, yeah, that's a normal verb. It goes into all those different forms. So first level, before we practice a little, does that make sense to you? Okay, tampoco is agreeing. Yo tampoco is agreeing, but it's agreeing with a negative statement. And yo también is agreeing, but it's agreeing with a positive statement. Okay. So one is me too and one is me neither or me neither. And then we've got that either and either. And yeah, we got all these things with English, right? So we got all these funky, weird things that happen in English with that. So let's take it down. Let's take it down to a different level. We're going to practice a little bit, but in a large group with this, okay? And we're going to practice with some affirmative statements, if you agree, okay? Siempre tomo café por la mañana. Siempre tomo café por la mañana. If you want to say me too, it's
Yo también.
Yo también.
yo también. Yo también. I'm going to have a negative statement. No tomo té por la mañana. No tomo té.
Yo
Tampoco.
tampoco.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco. Me either. Okay. No soy vegetariana. No soy vegetariana.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco.
Yo tampoco. Soy is a verb that goes into all those forms, okay? No soy vegetariana. I'm not a vegetarian. Yo tampoco.
No
Okay.
tampoco.
No me gusta el calor del verano.
A mí
tampoco.
tampoco.
A mí.
A mí tampoco. I gave you a negative statement. No me gusta el calor del verano. I don't like summer heat. A mí tampoco. Not me either.
How would I say I do?
Okay.
Pero yo
sí.
soy?
Or a mí sí.
Yo sí. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
We just, yeah. So if you are in that boat, it becomes a C thing.
No.
Okay. Okay, por ejemplo, me gustan los animales. Me gustan los animales.
A mí también.
A mí también. A mí también, because the whole sentence would be, a mí también me gustan los animales, but you don't need to like say me gustan los animales back as a response because you already know it is understood. So you just say the fragment, a mí también, a mí también. Bueno.
So as Nora said before, like, you know, if you disagree what you say.
Yo sí, or a mí sí. Right. Right. You switch over into a different mode. So I'm going to show you something.
No, but you said it's not in a negative one, the one that you're saying that you like animals. But
right.
If I say I don't, then what you say?
So I'm going to show you something. I've got to just find the right marker to get the right example of this. because you know what, when you were watching these the first time, it may have kind of gone over your head, and this would be kind of normal if this were to happen. I've just got to find, okay, I'm almost there. Okay, so we're going to show you, because this comes into that exact question.
At these examples. Es de noche en Alemania.
Oh, whoops, I need to back it up just a bit more.
Sound weird to the person you're talking to. Whenever you need to express the opposite of a statement,
When you need to express the opposite of the statement. This is the tag in. Both these videos were good, but they talked about different things. So he's going to talk about exactly what Nora was talking
use
about.
sí or no, or even the opposite statement like day or night. Look at these examples. Es de noche en Alemania.
It's nighttime in Germany.
Aquí no.
Not here. Here's a disagreement. Okay.
Not aquí.
You wouldn't use también at all. You wouldn't use tampoco at all. It's just, oh, not here. Aquí no. Aquí es de día.
Aquí es de día.
Here it's daytime.
¿No te gusta bailar? Qué lástima. A mí sí.
Here you go. You don't like? Oh, you don't like dancing?
A mí sí.
What a shame. A mí sí, but it's
Me
a
fascina.
mí. It's a mí because it's gustar.
A
It's
mí
not
sí.
a normal verb that goes into all the yo. Okay, so that's why it does that. And I think it does 2 more examples, maybe only one more.
Las otras profesoras de Spring Spanish son mexicanas. Yo no. Yo soy venezolano.
No soy venezolano.
Okay, so that,
Question.
see,
So is it this C like yes, or is it some sort of a verb or?
C is yes. C,
Okay.
yeah.
Huh.
Okay,
A mí,
so
yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're just saying,
a mí sí.
I like it. Yes, I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. So the purpose of this is that very, very often when we're in conversations, we shorten our conversations a lot. You may not speak in a whole sentence. You know, quite often we do not. And so you may want
Or
to
we
go
would say,
back.
I do. Like, I
but
do.
yes, or
but
we
this
say
is
I do.
yes.
And what does do mean in English? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like one of those little meaningless words. Oh, Spanish has so many meaningless words. Yeah, English has got a whole slew of those meaningless words. I do. Yeah, just the do.
Would you say, a mí gusta?
A mí me gusta. You can say
a
a mí me gusta. A mí me
Okay.
gusta. A mí me gusta. Yeah. And in that case, people probably will include the a mí part. Oh, I do like it. I do. Yeah, I do. A mí me gusta. A mí me gusta. Yeah, so all these little nuances, but you know, we sometimes speak in fragments and they're going to sometimes speak in fragments. Does that make a certain amount of sense to you? Do I need to develop a little exercise for you to try that again next week or not?
Good. Mm,
The
We
C
should go into
Sí, sí.
Un poquito, something short, yeah?
Yeah,
And
sí.
we'll devise another little thing because when you do it more, you will like one lesson, it's going to kind of like go to the back of the gray matter. We'll do it
Yeah.
again a little bit next week. Suwai, see.
Yeah, so in that quiz video, they use a different indicator to tell when they're going to use your or when they're going to use ami. I think multiple times, like when Corey answered, she asked why, and he explained that, oh, because your sentence has a may. It's a first person singular, and that's the indicator where he used your. He doesn't really refer to any of the verbs like gusta at all.
Yeah, and it really is dependent on if it is a me with a verb like gustar.
Okay, so it's a
Because now we're going to see me again, but it's being used in a different way. The me with reflexives is going to be used in a different way. So here's the stumbling block. Me is used for a lot of different purposes. Me with gusta says something is happening to me, or something is affecting me a certain way, okay? There is something that is an outside influence. Likability, the way something seems, whether or not it's important or it matters, whether or not it is interesting to me. And me functions as this is happening to me. It has an effect on me, okay? But me sometimes does not mean to me. Sometimes it is being used in a way that is reflexive. So me by itself isn't always the clue. Me with a verb that is like gustar, that is the clue.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Suwai?
Okay.
See, and I'll build some little exercises for us to do more of that again next week, because you'll see it again and it'll reinforce it again. Okay, but it'll be a short drill. Okay, we're gonna see me when it's not like me gusta. So I want you to notice me and gusta, we are using me, but gusta is not a yo form, is it?
No.
Now we're gonna see me paired up with verbs that do get a yo form.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Reflexive.
And now me is still a pronoun. It's still an object pronoun, but it means something slightly differently. Instead of something else happening to me, it means I'm doing it, and I am also receiving the benefit of whatever that action is. And that means reflexive verbs. Okay. A ver. So let's take a look again, really, really briefly. We're switching gears quite a lot here from kind of something more vocabulary oriented, which was our tampoco and también, to this topic of reflexive verbs. And reflexive verbs are things you're going to see a lot in your little books. And we see it with things that are just as common as llamarse. And when you look it up in a dictionary, so if you go to www.wordreference.com, wordreference.com is going to list these as the infinitive with se tagged on to the end. And the se tagged on to the end just means, hello, I'm a reflexive verb. That's all it means. The se is a very generic word. Se is very generic. It means that person is doing that action to themselves. And sometimes this will change a little bit, but anyway, in its most basic sense, a reflexive verb means the person who does the action also receives the action. So llamarse means I call myself. And we don't have a good, well, is it grammatically correct in English to say, I call myself? I call myself Marilyn, yes, but do people use that? Not very often. I call myself. Maybe if you said, my name is David, but I call myself Dave, you may hear it in that way in English, right?
Question.
Yeah, but we don't use the I call myself that much. Sí, Mariana.
So is it, you said llamarse, but wouldn't it be llamarme? Or would it be the may?
Okay.
I call myself.
So let's get out of this. Let me show you. I think I have a different way to show you that, because Nora did notice an example like that too. Okay, let me show you really briefly, because we won't be able to practice very much with it this way yet, but this is why it is what it is. Llamarse is how you look it up in the dictionary.
Okay.
To call oneself. This is a generic thing. Se is very generic. It just means, hello, I'm a verb. But when I actually plug it into a sentence, where I'm actually plugging into a meaningful phrase, that tells somebody is doing something, that se is going to have to morph into one of its many forms. And its many forms are me paired up with a yo verb. The key is me will always have a yo verb along with it. And so in other words, me will have a verb that, oh, it looks like it belongs with me. Yeah. Nos with a nosotros verb. The nos will have a nosotros form, and amos and hemos and imos, that they look like they belong together. It'll be te as the pronoun with a tú type verb. Te llamas, llamas a tú form that matches up with, ooh, it's a te. So it's not tú llamas, you're calling somebody, you're dialing on the phone right now. It's te llamas, you call yourself, right? Oh, I'm not going to dwell on this one. I'll just show you the verb. Os llamáis, that's only in Spain. You call yourselves. Os llamáis is the plural form of the te pronoun there. And now se does come back. We actually use se as the word se. Se with an el verb, or se with an ella verb, right? Because they're all the same. Or se with an usted verb, because they all use the same kind of verb. So now the se does come into play, and se comes into play again. We use the same kind of pronoun for the plural of el, or the plural of ella, right? With an ellos verb, with an ellas verb, and you get the idea with ustedes, right? So that's how it shakes out. Instead of me gusta, me is paired up with a verb, and it's not a yo verb because I'm not doing the action. A thing is pleasing to me, therefore me gusta. Or, wow, I love cookies, me encantan. Las galletas, me encantan. Me, wait a minute, encantan, that does not match up with me. No, because cookies, wow, they are delightful to me. Encantan is more than one, because me encantan las galletas. Me encantan, they are delightful to me. But now we've got a whole different class of verb. And these are verbs which have the se on the end, because the pronoun part is going to be looking like, hey, it matches up with the kind of verb it's used with. That means the person does the action, and they also receive the benefit of that action. So now, when you look it up, it is as llamarse with that generic se at the end. When I plug it into a sentence, it's got to morph into something that means something. Like, me llamo Marilyn. Me llamo Marilyn, okay? Se llaman, if I'm talking about a couple, los Gomez. They are they are the Smiths, right? In the Spanish word, se llaman los Gomez, right? Okay. Se llama Cristina. Her name is Cristina. She calls herself Cristina. Or let's take that levantar example that we have, because we have an example of levantar. Voy a levantarme. I'm going to get up. I can't say voy a levantarse, because the se isn't, it doesn't play nice with the idea that I'm doing this. So now that I plug this reflexive verb, meaning I do the action and I also receive the benefit of that action, I need to make sure I'm putting it into a form that is talking about the person doing it. And in this case, voy a levantarme, I'm going to get up. it can be expressed as voy a levantarme. I can also say, I can move the me to a different place. Me voy a levantar. And those both mean the same thing. The me can go either place because I've got a couple of verbs doing that. Otro ejemplo, a different example. Queremos, we want. Or let's make it a negative. No queremos levantarnos. We don't want to get up. Instead of going to do it, we don't want to do it. No queremos levantarnos. Well, we don't want to get up. I could swing that nos up front. No nos queremos levantar. I can swing that nos up in front and it means the same thing. So in other words, I am using these as two verbs together, but that's why Nora had noticed an example where we're using two verbs together. When you see that, that's why they don't use the se, they change that to the me or the nos or whatever it needs to be, whoever we're talking about in that sentence. Okay.
Una pregunta?
Dime.
So you're yelling to your mom, I'm getting up. Do you just say me levanto?
Me levanto. I'm doing it.
Okay.
Me levanto. Yeah, we're going to look at these really, really soon. Okay. Bien?
Okay.
Right. Let's take a look now. Let's go back to the big screen. Okay. So, despertarse versus despertar. Sometimes a thing wakes you up. Sometimes you just wake up, right? Just waking up yourself is despertarse, but your kid waking you up, oh, perdón, I don't have my shirt button. Okay, now it means something. You're just waking up on your own is despertarse, but your kid waking you up in the morning, it's despertar without the se. So these verbs change in meaning. If it's despertar, the dogs might be making you up, right? Your kids may be waking you up. Your spouse snoring may be waking you up. And you normally wouldn't be on your own, but waking up on your own, just out of your own body process, is despertarse. So changing it from despertar, an outside force waking up, to despertarse, you yourself just are waking up. That's two different things. Okay, here's an example that may not make sense, but this is really what these mean. And in some of these explanation videos, they use the verb lift for levantar, because really levantar does mean to lift. Okay, so levantar is to lift, to pick something up and hold it up. So, or pick something up, like if I pick books up off the ground, if I pick shoes up off the ground, if I'm picking up all the shoes that my kids leave all over the house, that's levantar, just levantar. But when I change it to levantarse, it means I'm doing it to myself. And it means I am picking my whole body up and getting in an upright position. Getting up out of bed, getting up out of a chair, levantarse. It changes. Levantarse changes the meaning of just, this is levantar. Think of levitating. Think of a magician levitating. Yeah, levitating. You know, like they get the lady who floats, right? Levitation. That's what levantar comes from, that same word. So it's lifting, levantar. But levantarse is to get yourself up. Right? Somebody looks at you and they say, levántate, get up. Levántate, me levanto, I'm getting up. Me levanto. But it's me levanto. Me matches up with a yo verb, me levanto. They have to be in matching up terms, okay? Or nos levantamos, you're yelling at all your kids. Nos levantamos, mamá, nos levantamos, mom, we're getting up. Nos has to match up with levantamos, a nosotros verb. They have to play nice together. It can't be like nos gusta or the verb doesn't match up with the pronoun. The pronoun has to match up with the verb form it's talking about. Okay, so el hombre se levanta, la mujer levanta pesas, the woman lifts weights. Okay, vale, aquí. And this one doesn't really, duchar, you never hear used without reflexive. Ducharse is to take a shower. Okay, me ducho. Me ducho, I'm taking a shower. ¿A qué hora te duchas? What time do you shower? Te duchas, you take a shower. ¿A qué hora, cuándo se duchan los estudiantes? Se duchan después de la clase de educación física. After PE class, they take a shower. Okay, so se duchan, they take a shower. Bañar, definitely you hear both. Bañarse is to take a bath yourself. But bañar is to bathe somebody else. Like you don't leave a 2-year-old in the tub by themselves. Hey kid, go take a shower. It's bañar. Your dog is never going to get into the tub by himself. I think I'll take a bath. No, you have to give the dog a bath. So when you're giving a bath to somebody else, it's bañar. But when you take a bath yourself, it's bañarse. Me baño. Te bañas, you take a bath. Se baña, she takes a bath or he takes a bath. But baño al bebé, I give the baby a bath. Okay, that can't be reflexive because I do it to the baby. Okay, same thing with lavar. Lavar is to wash something. Lavarse is to wash a part of your own body. So, lavarse las manos, lavarse la cara. But if you're washing your car, it's lavo el coche. So in all of these reflexive verbs, having that se, which morphs into its different forms of me, te, se, nos, and se again, it changes the meaning a little bit. It means I'm doing the action and I'm also kind of receiving the benefit of that activity. And you'll notice a lot of these have to do with daily routines, things that we do to ourselves every day. That is not 100% the case, but that is how we learn this category of verbs, because it is a whole big category.
I have a question.
Yeah, sí, dime.
What you say for the lavar or bañar, and when you say that you do it to yourself, then you say that, you know, or me baño or me ducho. But when you wash your own hand, you say what? So me lavo?
Me lavo el pelo, right? Me lavo el pelo, I'm washing my hair.
So when can you use the lavarme then?
Okay. Lavo los platos. I wash the dishes. Lavo la ropa. I wash clothing. I don't need a me. I'm talking about the clothing. The clothing is what's getting washed. Just lavo la ropa. Lavo la ropa cada 4 días. I wash clothes every 4 days. Lavo la ropa, no reflexive, because what am I washing? A thing, clothing. Lavo los platos todos los días. I wash the dishes every day. Lavo los platos. No reflexive, because what am I washing? Dishes. But me lavo las manos. I am washing a part of my body. And when it's a part of your body, it's considered reflexive. And then it's got to be me lavo. It would sound very off to someone if you say lavo las manos. That sounds off to them.
So you cannot say ducharme, you have to say me ducho instead?
It's always me ducho. Me ducho. It's always me ducho.
Okay, so that thing is not going to apply, like, you know.
Yeah, this one verb, ducharse, you just never heard. Well, because how often do you put somebody in a shower and give them a shower? You might very well give them a bath, but it's less common to use that with like, I'm giving my toddler a shower. And I'm sure, well, I've done that to my kids when they were little, but yeah,
No,
usually
but
it's
you say that
bañarse.
like with the may, it's a reflect to ourself, right?
Yes.
To me.
Because we're doing
So-
it to our bodies.
Correct. So, but you say we cannot say ducharme. You have to say
Oh,
me ducho.
It's me ducho, right, right. Well, voy a ducharme, I'm going to take a shower, but me ducho, I'm taking a shower right now.
Oh, so you gotta have the verb first.
You've
in
got to
front of
have
it.
the me ducho. It's right. It's got to be that. Okay.
Okay.
Let's
Can
look
I
at
ask
some.
a question on
Si,
that,
si,
on the,
si.
just on the same subject? So
See,
as I understand it, the verb can go, the reflexive, what do you call, it? Reflexive pronoun or whatever,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
goes, it can go on the end of a base verb when there's another verb in front of it.
right.
Okay. and
So-
otherwise it goes in the front of
When you
the-
have the infinitive, meaning the infinitive is the base verb. It is
Okay,
the verb that has not been changed into a form, right?
okay,
It often gets attached if you're using an infinitive.
okay,
But once we conjugate it, it's going to move up in front of the verb itself.
okay,
Oh.
okay,
That is the difference.
okay.
When we actually, because you wouldn't say to somebody, I'm taking a shower, ducharme. No, that just says showering myself, but it's not saying I'm doing it right now. Me ducho, right? When I conjugate the actual verb, it's me ducho. If I've got an infinitive hanging around somewhere, like, por ejemplo, this is the difference. Let me go back. Let me go back to this. These examples at the bottom of the screen here
Wow.
were with a verb and an infinitive.
Mhm.
And once I've got an infinitive, meaning the base verb, not conjugated, and levantar there is not conjugated. Oh, then I can tag it on to the end.
Okay,
Okay, but once I am using a form, so if I'm looking at this picture of this guy taking a shower, and I want to say he's taking a shower, it's él se ducha. Él se ducha. Él se ducha. He's showering. Él se ducha. If he's going to shower, it's él va a ducharse. Él va a ducharse.
okay,
Va a, there's the verb ducharse. There's the infinitive with the se hanging on the end. So it depends on how you're expressing that idea.
okay.
Okay. And right now we're looking at the kinds of verbs that become reflexive verbs typically. Okay. If you want to say get dressed, the verb for that is vestirse. It's a reflexive verb. If you want to say not putting my cup on the table, but putting my dress on myself, it's ponerse. Ponerse is not putting an item someplace, it's putting an item on your body. Ponerse is putting on clothes. Ponerse is even for putting on jewelry. Ponerse is even for putting on, because I'm putting it on my body. So, me pongo
Mis gafas.
las gafas, or me pongo los lentes, depending on which word you use for glasses. Me pongo los lentes. But if I want to say I put on sunglasses, me pongo los lentes de sol, or las gafas de sol. Me pongo, because I'm putting it on my body. If I pongo las gafas en el libro, now I'm not putting it on my body, I'm putting it on top of the book, right? But me pongo, I'm putting them on my body. That's the difference. ¿Entienden? Poner can mean just to put something in a place. But when I put it on my body, it's me pongo. So Put on like clothing or put on like jewelry is ponerse. Okay. Arreglarse is to get ready. That's kind of a more generic verb. It is in English too. Get ready. If I just say I'm getting ready, that could mean I'm doing my hair. It could mean I'm putting on makeup. It could mean I'm putting on clothes. You don't know what stage it is, right? You're just getting ready. But arreglarse is to get yourself ready. So that's a kind of less specific than vestirse, putting clothes on. Less specific than ponerse, putting something on your body. Okay, ¿vale? Bien. Okay.
I have a question again.
Sí, dime.
Sorry with this noises. Back and forth chopper here, sorry. You say that the first one is like me pongo las gafas. Can I say me pongo mis gafas or no?
You could. You could.
Is it weird to say it? Is it wrong?
No.
No?
It wouldn't, no, but you hear it both ways. It kind of depends. If you want to be really emphatic that they're mine and not somebody else's, you might say mis.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at all examples of these are the typical kinds of verbs that will do this. All right. That's really the first step, is knowing what kinds of verbs do it. And a lot of these are introduced as, again, verbs of one's daily routine, things you routinely do during the day. Peinarse versus peinar. Peinar is just comb somebody else's hair. So the stylist just uses peinar, right? Because they are styling somebody else's hair. But peinarse is to comb one's own hair. Cepillarse, which can be used for your teeth or your hair, right? Because we use a brush on our teeth, we use a brush on our hair. Cepillo is the word for our brush, cepillo, and cepillarse is to brush one's own hair. Cepillar would be a stylist brushing somebody else's hair. That's the difference between reflexive and non-reflexive. Here we've got the teeth with the brushing part. Cepillarse los dientes is to brush your own teeth. If you've got a toddler who's too little to brush their own teeth, it's just cepillar. In Mexico, by the way, for brush your teeth, they often in Mexico prefer this phrase instead of cepillarse. It's lavarse, which means washing your teeth. Well, that's what you're doing. So they like to use a different vocabulary word in different countries. That's all that means. Both of these are vocabulary words. If you said lavarse los dientes to somebody in Spain, they would understand you, even though they usually say, me cepillo los dientes, okay? No matter which verb you use, people will understand you, okay? So brushing teeth for somebody else because they're too little to do it, that's cepillar. But brushing one's own teeth, that's cepillarse. And even putting people to bed, to go to bed. Acostarse is going to bed on one's own, right? Getting yourself into the bed. But little kids, you put them into bed. And acuesto a los niños, I put the kids into bed because I'm not doing it to myself. I'm putting them in. They probably don't want to go to bed, but I'm putting them there because it's time. Bien? A ver. And this one, really, really common. Sentarse is to sit down. It is the opposite of this. Levantarse. Here's the opposite. Sentarse, sitting down. Sentar means to seat somebody. So if you're in a theater or if you're at a restaurant and a maitre d' shows you to your table, that's sentar. But sentarse means to sit yourself down, to seat yourself. Bien? Okay. Sometimes the se even doesn't really mean you're doing it to yourself, but it changes the meaning of the action a tiny bit. So that's why I leave this example to the end. Dormir means to sleep. Okay. But if we want to talk about the action of falling asleep, going through that process, the translation for falling asleep is reflexive, dormirse. Sometimes making a verb reflexive means we add something special on in English, like fall asleep, or another verb that does that. I'm going to add this on to show you how it sometimes verbs, my point is sometimes verbs change meaning by making them reflexive. It tweaks the meaning a little bit. Let me show you the example with caer. Caer means to fall. Fall out of a tree, fall out of your seat. Oh my God, I hope not, but to fall. Leaves falling, that's caer, right? But caerse
Oh, it's fall down.
changes the meaning ever so slightly to fall down. We use a directional word, down. What, it's gonna fall up? Nobody says fall up. It's fall down, fall or fall down. Yeah, well, if you want to include that idea of fall down, it's caerse. So tagging a se on tweaks the meaning. Tweaks the meaning. Let me show you one other verb where it will tweak the meaning, because this is a verb that's going to do two opposite things. Me preocupa. Does the verb match up with the me?
No.
No, they don't match in form. Me preocupa means it worries me. It worries me.
So it.
Me preocupa que hace tanto calor. It worries me that it's so darn hot. Me preocupa. Me preocupa cuando los adolescentes manejan. It worries me when teenagers drive. Okay. Something else, an event, is worrisome to me. Okay. But if I change this to a reflexive verb, me preocupo, it means I am, oops, worried, too many R's. Not enough. I am worried. I myself am experiencing this feeling of, yeah. So what I'm trying to show you is you are going to, we teach reflexive verbs as, oh, they talk about our daily routine. But also, some verbs will be reflexive even when they're not about daily routine. And it somehow morphs the meaning of that verb in a very tiny, very subtle way. Very, very subtle. Yeah? Okay. Not all verbs, but some verbs. A ver, ¿sí? Okay. Vale. Muy bien. Okay. So let's get out of this screen. Let's go to a different screen and let's see how these typically match up in a normal sentence. We're going to clear all drawings. We're going to get another thing. Let's take sentarse, because wow, anytime you walk into a restaurant, people are going to use this to sit down. Now, this also has kind of an odd extra problem in that sentar is an E to IE stem change. Okay, so keep in mind this little E sound in sentar will become in most forms an IE. So besides being reflexive, it is also stem changing. Sadly, this will happen with some verbs. This is one, but this is a verb that you hear all the time, right? Because people say, siéntate, siéntate, sit down, sit down, sit down. Okay, so what I've got to have with a reflexive verb, once I take it out of what is a reflexive verb, what does it mean? It means I am plopping my behind someplace and I am doing it to myself, right? The waiter is not showing me to a seat and nicely pulling it out for me and motioning, hey, here you go. No, me siento, I'm doing it to myself. I need the pronoun me. So unlike, we taught you don't bother with yo. Well, we won't, but I can't omit this pronoun me. I can't omit it because it changes the meaning. Me siento means I'm sitting down. So I've got to pair up me with a yo verb, me siento. Now I'm going to use the plural of the yo, which is the nosotros, right? And I need the little pronoun, I need the nos, and I need sentamos conjugated. And okay, don't need a stem change because it's nosotros. Nosotros never gets a stem change, right? Me siento, I'm sitting down. Nos sentamos, we're sitting down, okay? Te sientas, te sientas. And okay, this is only in Spain, os sentáis. So you don't really need to know that. Te sientas, a tu verb, and it's got to have the te in front of it. So whereas you will omit the tu all the time, you can't skip that word te. It changes the meaning if you skip the word te. All right. Se sienta. Mi amiga se sienta. My friend is sitting down. Mi esposo se sienta. My husband is sitting down. Usted se sienta. You are sitting down. It works for all three of those. And then to talk about a group of people, se sientan. Se sientan. Mis amigos se sientan. My friends are sitting down. Mis hijas se sientan. My daughters are sitting down. Ustedes se sientan. You guys are sitting down. Okay, vale? Let's take lavarse. Let's take lavarse because you will even see these on hand washing. Next time you go into a public restroom at a restaurant, you'll see signs because if the employees use the same restroom, some of the employees will be Spanish speaking and they need to have those reminders like we do in English signs too. Wash your hands, wash your hands. Lavarse, to wash oneself, right? And it means to wash a part of the body, right? And usually this will be associated with face or hands, right? Because typically that's what we do with a common thing. But we've got to pair up this me with a yo form, me lavo, right? If we're doing it, we're all washing our hands, it's nos lavamos. If you're doing it, it's te lavas, right? If you guys are doing it, it's laváis, but right, only in Spain will they use that, no place in Latin America. La hija se lava las manos, but if I make it las hijas, it's, or las chicas se lavan las manos. And here is a verb that is not a stem changer, right? Not a stem changer, but plain old vanilla verb, regular verb. And notice the verb form, if it's yo, it gets a me. If it's tu, it gets a te. If it's a one person verb, it gets a se. If it's a plural, more than one person, it still gets a se. Oh, yay, that pronoun doesn't change. Third person, he's doing it, they're doing it. Same pronoun, se. And nosotros gets the nos pronoun, right? Bien? So
I thought in the bathrooms, usually I don't see this say. Is it more of a command just to say?
It'll be a command. So if you see it, it'll be a command. And that means they're going to tag the say onto the end because a yes, go do it command. Commands must take that little word and tag it onto the end. Okay. So it'll be like this. A command uses an opposite vowel. So if it's talking to all the employees, it'll be
lavan las manos.
Oops, and I got to get my lávense las manos.
Oh,
lávense las manos. Hey, you guys, it's assuming it's talking to all the employees.
Okay.
Lávense las manos, wash your hands. If it's to one person thing and it's a polite, hey, customer, hey, you anonymous customer, lávese. Ooh, and I need my accent mark. Lávese las manos, wash your hands. lávese las manos. These two, when you see them on a sign in a restaurant, will be given as commands.
Right.
Commands are not the same as, hey, I'm for sure doing it. These two here, se lavan, they mean, oh, you really are doing it.
Oh, okay.
It's really happening. These over here mean, hey, please go do that. It's a command. It's
Okay.
an order. I don't know if you're going to do it. It's mandatory, but I don't know. You may do it. You may not do it. I'm telling you, go do it. Lávense, commands do not, commands are special verb forms because the action is not actually happening right now.
Okay.
You want it to happen, but you don't know if it's going to happen. And that's why commands exist. Okay.
Question?
Sí, dime.
Again, just going back to what my confusion when it tags on the end is, so if I wanted to say, I'm going to sit down, voy a sentarme.
Voy a sentarme, right.
Okay.
And those little pronouns sometimes will shift to different places.
Okay.
For a verb that's just okay, so here it goes, Mariana. When you're using one verb by itself,
Yes.
lavarse by itself, despertarse by itself, ponerse by itself.
Okay.
Then the pronoun's going to be in front of the verb. When we're talking about something that really is happening right now, that really did happen 5 minutes ago, that really will happen in the future. Okay. It's the pronoun in front of the verb. Okay.
Okay.
Commands do funny things depending on if there's a no command or a yes command. They do different things. A yes command, we tag it onto the end. There are all kinds of rules for that. We don't want to get too much into the weeds, but where we can get into the weeds, okay, so let me show you the difference here. Oop, here we go. Let's go back to this. We're going to clear it. We're going to use our famous lavarse example here. Lavarse. Me lavo las manos cuando cocino. I wash my hands when I cook. Well, I hope so. Me lavo las manos cuando cocino. I wash my hands when I cook. But, how many verbs am I using? Well, okay, here I'm using another verb, but how many verbs am I using in this? Just one by itself, by its lonely self. Me lavo, me lavo. But if I'm talking about, I haven't done it yet, I'm going to, now I'm going into the future, right? So I'm going to say, voy a lavarme las manos. Voy a lavarme. How many verbs am I using? I'm using not one, but I'm using two verbs that are working together, right?
Got it.
And they're working together to say, oh, it's not happening right now. It's going to happen. It will happen, but it hasn't yet. And sometimes we have these two verbs working together. I might say, I don't want, a little kid says, I don't want to wash my hands. Yeah, how many times have we heard that? No quiero, I don't want. No quiero lavarme las manos. I don't want to wash my hand. Lavarme. I don't want to wash my hand. No quiero lavarme las manos. When I have two verbs working together, I can tag that on to the end because I have two, but it can never tag on to the quiero part.
Right.
It can never tag on to the boy part. It's got to tag on to this. So to answer Mariana, so for some of you, this may sound weird. For Mariana, who's done a little more, this won't sound too terribly weird. There are two places, when I use two verbs together, there are two places this word me can go. I can say, voy a lavarme las manos. I can also say, me voy a lavar las manos. It's perfectly acceptable and okay to swing the me in front of that first verb.
Okay.
And people, what's more common? Neither. They'll say what they feel like. Sadly, right? All right, here, this was a negative phrase, so let's put our no. No me quiero lavar las manos. No me quiero lavar las manos is equally correct as quiero lavarme. Okay, I can only tag this on because I've got lavar, but it's always okay. It's always okay to swing it up in front of the conjugated verb. In front of the conjugated verb. That is always okay and always permissible. Does that answer your question, Mariana?
It does, that helps.
Okay.
Thanks.
This becomes, yeah, this starts to get into the weeds because these words can go in different places, but that's okay. Diana, dime.
Just, is there any significance to the fact that most of those reflexives are AR verbs?
No.
None. So it just happens.
So let me, okay, so here's how that's significant. Probably 60 or 70% of all the verbs in the language are AR verbs.
Oh, okay. So that's the reason.
But a verb can be an ER or an IR verb. So let's look at 2 of those examples. Okay. I'll show you 2. A ver, here we go. Bien. Let's take ponerse.
Yeah.
To put something on yourself. Okay. Clothing, earrings. Oh, even sunscreen. Even sunscreen. Yes, it's ponerse because you're putting it on your body. Yes, that is what it is. And it's an ER verb. But it just happens to be an ER verb, and it just happens to have one of these really weird oddball things with yo that goes to a GO. It just does. It's only irregular for yo, but no place else. So, me pongo las sandalias. Me pongo, but nos ponemos, right? Te pones las sandalias, right? But os ponéis, se pone las sandalias, or se ponen las sandalias. They don't have to be AR verbs. It's just that AR verbs are predominant in the language. Here's an IR verb, vestirse. And this is totally weird because it is an IR verb that is a stem changing. Ooh, and you have to just know that it is an E to I. So it becomes visto, vistes, viste, visten. But nosotros will go back to the original vowel, which was in a letter E, right? And vestimos. So it becomes I get dressed, right? Becomes me visto. Right? Nos vestimos, we get dressed. Te vistes, you get dressed. Os vestís, wow, you're only going to hear that in Spain. Se viste, she gets dressed or he gets dressed. Se visten, they get dressed. And there you go. It's got an oddball stem change. Oh, shoot. And the E to I is the weirdest category of stem changes. It's just, it'll do odd things in different tenses. But me visto cada mañana. I get dressed every day. Cuando no tengo clases de Zoom, me visto. When I don't have Zoom classes, I get dressed still. Okay, so it doesn't have to be an AR verb. Bien? Vale? So the verb is going to tell, like it always did in a regular sentence, who does the action. But now we need that little extra pronoun in front of it because it says it's a daily routine and I'm doing it to myself. Or like that verb preocuparse, that I myself feel this gnawing feeling of worry in my gut. And I feel this way. Bien? I will send you some things to practice just the mechanics of how to conjugate these, just so that you get used to, I have to use a pronoun with the verb, because really I've been trying to emphasize, hey, don't bother with yo, too. Well, you still won't, but you do have to bother with these little pronouns, right?
Yes.
So, you know, estoy, we don't usually say yo estoy. It's usually just estoy, right? Cocino, it's not usually yo cocino. It's usually just cocino, I cook, because we don't need the yo, but we do need the me siento, I sit down. We do need the me despierto, I wake up. We do need the me lavo las manos, I wash my hands. Okay, we can't skip the pronoun or we change the meaning of that verb. Does that make sense?
Sí.
And this is a very conceptual thing because they often explain this as, oh, I'm doing it to myself. But when do you ever say, I am dressing myself? You might say a toddler cannot dress himself. That's pretty common. But we never say, I dress myself. We just say, I get dressed. Right? I have to go outside. I'm putting on my shoes. Right? Oh my gosh, the sun is really bad today. I'm putting on sunscreen. Okay, and we never say I put it on myself. We don't do the myself very much in English. We just don't. I'm going to try to find a storytelling with reflexive. I don't know if I'm going to find that or not, but I am going to definitely send you lots of practice for reflexives. And en el libro, in the book, if you want to look ahead a little bit, en el capítulo. So if you have this as a reference, and some of you may have done some of these before, so you may not want to do those exercises. It is in chapter 12, 193, 192. They talk about them and they divide them up in the categories and you'll start to see, oh my gosh, there are tons of these verbs. Well, there are a lot of them. And some of them will look like daily routine. Some of them will not look like daily routine because they just are. That's very unsatisfying as an explanation, but some of them just are. We'll take one of the, it just is reflexive, that isn't really very daily routine as an example, because it'll be a common one. We're going to use the dedicarse one next week. Okay, ¿está bien?
Sí.
Sí.
Magnifico. And we'll send you things to practice this next week. And next week, we are going to look at pictures and we're going to extrapolate from the practice you do during the week to talking about what the people are doing in the pictures. These are reflexives. Make sense?
Sí.
Okay. Magnífico. Vale, fantástico. Si hay alguna pregunta, díganme por favor. If there is some kind of a question, tell me during the week. That's absolutely fine. But that is it for today. ¿Sí? Espero que llegue el monzón. Wow, I hope the monsoon comes. We're supposed to get some monsoon action again later this week. Qué emocionante. How exciting, we hope. Yeah. Because I got dying cactus and that's a bad situation. Okay. Vale, nos vemos.
All right, gracias.
De nada, de nada. Es un placer. De nada.
Adios.
Adiós.